Welcome back, everyone. Today I have a very special guest. I have Katie Hill with me, who is a systems integrator. Her handle on Instagram is your digital healer. And I actually, Katie, I think found me. She found me through one of my other guests, and she is doing some really amazing things to assist holistic healers with getting, their technology in place and some of the things that they can do to grow their business. So welcome, Katie. I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm excited too.
So let's dive into this. What is it that you're doing? Let's actually start with your story, because I love to hear how we've all gotten, so far and where we've gotten to. So could you start a little bit off with your story and what led you into doing what you're doing?
Yeah. Well, so I kind of feel like it's two streams that have kind of converged into one. So I am the digital healer. So I've got this digital side to me, but I've also, healing has just been in my life for a while now. And I'm finally able to marry the two together, which is really exciting for me. So I usually talk about those two streams. So the first is like digital. I grew up in technology. So I kind of actually, now that I see a lot of kids growing up with iPhones, that was kind of me, but with Commodore 64s and the really old Mac computers.
Yeah,
Um, I was the kid on the on the keyboard and playing Organ Trail and all those
I
like
love
fun
that game.
little, yeah, I
I
loved
need
it
to
too.
bring that back.
Yeah. um, and I grew up with the internet when AOL started. I was in the chat rooms, and then I just basically taught myself HTML and everything online. And so all of my jobs, as I was kind of reflecting, I realized I've had a whole bunch of different types of jobs, but they've all kind of given me a little nugget of wisdom along the way. As far as like how technology can be a good thing. I
Mhm.
know that, it could be, a lot of people can see it as disconnected and bad, but that is one thing that I'm trying to teach my clients, at least, is that there are some good things about technology. And so one of my jobs out of college was actually working for a positive news magazine, which was really, really fun. It was called Ode. And they brought me on to build their community, their online community. And that was right when Facebook and Twitter was starting to become a thing.
Oh, fun.
And it was really amazing to see how you could take a big community, like a global network of people. And for our community specifically, we were talking about inspiring people and stories that were basically changing the world for the better. So like, what better to like inspire people and then have them connect online. And so that was my job. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing what you can actually do with the internet. And so then I moved into a tech startup, and I understood how like you grow software that way, and design it, and the good and bad of how to design software. And then I jumped into an agency, it's like digital marketing agency. And so I was a project manager, and that's where I learned how websites can really help you promote your brand, and bring in the right clients, and really share your message. And it's also where I learned more about structure too, and how structure is really important for things to flow.
Mhm.
I used to not be a process nerd, and now I am. So I understand, you kind of have to have that structure in order to kind of play and create. Um, so then after that job, I took a job in healthcare. So I worked in a hospital setting. I was actually in the admin. I was building their website, and that was really fascinating to me. And at that time, I had already been in like the holistic healthcare realm. And so this was kind of an eye opener for me to step into more of the Western medicine and see how systems were built. So I learned a ton about systems. And how, right now there's a challenge within healthcare, and I feel like the systems really have grown a little too far. Things are a lot more siloed. And so that brought some ideas to mind of how I could help build something new. So that's my digital story. I ended up quitting that job back in August, and I am now doing my own business, and I'll talk about that in a second. So rewind back to my health journey. that started, the big stuff kind of started right when I graduated college. And I had this like weird illness, like all these things started happening. Panic attacks, high blood pressure, like skin rashes, just all of these things. And I went to a number of doctors and no one was giving me answers. Like they kept pushing pills on me, and then that would lead into another prescription, another prescription. And I just had this like deep knowing that that wasn't for me. I always wanted, like, I kept asking why, what's the root cause? Why am I having these issues? And wasn't getting the answers. So moved up to Portland, where like there's holistic healers everywhere up here. So that was my first kind of introduction into, first it was naturopathy. So I had my first naturopathic appointment, and that was amazing. Like I was blown away at the fact that I actually had a conversation with her for almost 2.5 hours. So like I was going from doctor appointments that were 15 minutes, and now like here's a person who was really actually interested in what was going on in my body, what my lifestyle was, what I was eating, just like we talked about everything.
Which is how it should be, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So it was the first time I felt really seen, and that I had an advocate too. She was dead set on making sure that I felt better. And sure enough, like we did a couple of lab tests, found out I had Hashimoto's, so I got an answer right away. And ever since then, that just kind of opened this whole array of healing modalities to me. So I got into nutrition, into herbs, then I got into acupuncture, and then that blossomed into like TRE and energy healing and spiritual work. And that's when I started realizing that, healing is not just about the physical system and body, it's also about energy and spiritual and like the traumatic stuff that you're holding on to.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that just kind of blossomed. And I was like, I want to help all of these people that have, had such an impact on my life. And actually, I got an idea on the acupuncture table, like right before COVID hit. I was like laying there and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel amazing. I want more people to feel this way. And I know a lot of people really don't know about all these modalities. And my provider is amazing. She just knows exactly what I need. And how can I like use my skills in digital to help these providers who like, a lot of them were even before COVID, they were challenged with technology, but then insert COVID and you take away one-on-one sessions, people are like, healers are having a hard time trying to navigate the online space. It was just a really perfect timing for me to come in and say, hey, I can help. And I want, I actually really want you to succeed here. So that's how that came together. And so maybe for the last year, I've kind of been fumbling around trying to figure out what I could offer. And that's where your digital healer came about. So I basically build the foundational systems for mission-driven healers to spread their message and prepare for growth. So I am working with a very specific type of healer who has these like really big visions of changing the healthcare paradigm, but they're kind of stuck in this like, what do I do? I've got this big vision, but I don't really have the systems and I don't really know what to do. So that's where I step in.
That's a fascinating story. And I'm sitting there thinking, I almost paralleled your story very similarly because
yeah.
Me too. I have a little bit of that software background as well as that healthcare background. And I do feel that we are put through those scenarios so we can see what's going on, in them. And, for me, your experience is so needed in this area because we are on the precipice of change, specifically when it comes with our healthcare system. And I was seeing this daily. I was reviewing charts and I was recognizing that we couldn't merge charts within even the same healthcare systems. And it was so like a cluster. It was such a cluster and it was not user friendly. And so, I too, like you, was beginning to go along the holistic path. Even though I was working in conventional medicine, I
Mhm.
was learning about all of these different modalities, and I was doing it for my own self because I too was struggling with a lot of pain, and they were telling me it was fibromyalgia, and they were, just really not sure what was going on, with me. And so that kind of guided me along the path of energy and understanding that working in this hospital setting, I was being bombarded every day with lots of energy, from nuclear medicine to
Oh,
radiology to
yeah.
all these things.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then I began to learn more about that. But with that said, I also started to try to, take the experience that I had in healthcare and then apply it in a different way in a more holistic setting. So I think it's just natural that you and I attracted one another,
Mhm.
because I do feel that there are several of us out there who have the background and the experience to look at both sides of the picture and be able to kind of collaborate or meld them together. What didn't work in the old system and how can we create a new system? So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what are you doing? What are you creating right now to be able to kind of pave a new path, in this area of new modalities and new ways of thinking when it
Mhm.
comes to healthcare?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting you say that, because I've been trying to reflect too, because I do think that there's a connection there of when I was working in the conventional system, and the fact that things were so siloed, and here I am working in holistic care, and that's the basis of what I'm building is the foundational systems, and I want to make sure that they all talk to each other. So
I love that.
so right now, the challenge with healers and just with anybody really growing a business online is that there are so many tools, and it's hard to integrate them all. It's hard to like create that best user experience. And so reflecting on like the conventional side of things, I was in there, and like when you're talking about the EHR system and having to do all the data and
Yeah.
stuff, I was seeing it from a different point of view, where there's this it's a big system with a lot of different departments, and none of them are really talking to each other. And that's the challenge, is that when systems grow so large like that, it's inevitable, if you don't have the right processes in place, it just kind of spirals. And that's what was happening. So like, just as an example, I was put in charge of building their website, and I couldn't for the life of me get a master list of locations, like the locations of
Which
this
you think is
hospital,
easy, right?
or like a master list of providers, or even, medical records were shared or not shared with others. And it's just there's a lot of stuff that I was starting to notice. And I think that's one of my gifts, is to see the larger picture. I'm like a whole systems kind of picture thinker, which is why the holistic realm really inspires me, is because you are actually looking at the whole.
Totally.
And so when I transfer that over to your digital healer and the foundational systems that I am building, it's I always have that in the back of my head of how can we like build a very solid system for you, and the process is in place so it doesn't get so large, like that example that I just shared. And then also, how can the systems flow easy?
Mhm.
I'm all about ease. I want this to
Yes.
be super easy for both you and the customer. So some of the things that I offer, like client management, for example, I have 5 different systems that I kind of deem as like what is needed for an online business for healers. And one of them is client management. And it really differs depending on what type of healer you are. So if you're kind of more in the clinical setting, there are EHR systems where you can take medical notes and records.
Uh-huh.
And so there's like all-in-one platforms that you can use, that organize everything for you. So you can do your booking through that. You can take your notes through that. You can, it's just much more organized. And so that's both easier for you because you've got all your notes and everything in place, but it's also easier for the client because
Oh,
there's one place to go to. They're not having to log into multiple different things. So that's my whole wish out of this, is just to make everything easy and smooth.
I love that, because I think one struggle that I had the most working in healthcare is it wasn't streamlined.
Yeah.
And I was struggling to find information, for the patient or in real time. I worked in organ and tissue donation. So oftentimes we would come on site and we'd have to really rely heavily on the nurses and the doctors to provide information for us. And not every time did we have access to the EMR, right? But luckily my organ procurement organization worked under a hospital, so we did have access. But it was kind of a joke because there were 7 to 12 different hospitals under the same umbrella, but none of them could communicate with one another. And so I'm a big proponent of that as well, not only for the staff, but for the client or the patient too, because when the patient would come to us and ask us questions, and we kind of looked, dumbfounded because we
They
couldn't
pick up on it. Yeah.
information. Yeah. And that was so frustrating, not only for me, but for the staff and for the patient as well. So I think, taking what we learned in healthcare and then applying it in a new way is so needed right now. And we could be paving new paths, right? And this isn't always easy. It's like we've got to take the big bushwhacker out there and, create our own path. But
Absolutely.
yeah, and it can be scary. But with that said, it looks like you and me both have had a variety of jobs that have brought us little tips and nuggets and tools, to be able to bring these pieces together. And like I'd shared with you before we started recording, when I first started the Soul Cafe, the name of my business, my whole intent was to have it be like a compository or a place for people to come to find a healer, to find a modality. But I didn't have nearly the amount of tech background that you do. I mean, I could make websites, I could do newsletters, I could do some funnels, I could do, these types of things, but I didn't nearly have that. So you are so needed in this area. And I love that you are able to kind of cohesively bring, all of your experience together to be able to now provide this service out into the world. And I will say, I have a lot of friends who are healers, as well as some clients, and their biggest struggle is tech. That's the thing that it holds them back. They get scared. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to start. And so if there's someone like you who can help guide them and move them through with ease and grace, they now have permission to do what they do best, which was help and guide people, right? Where you can kind of take over the reins and do the technology aspect, which is really scary for some people.
Yeah, I was going to say there's what I'm finding is there's usually like 2 big healer wounds just in general that I'm confronting, and one is technology. And I've heard the same thing. It's like when you get in there, and even for anybody who is building a business, you usually have to bootstrap things at the beginning. And so you're trying to learn all these new tools, things don't work. It's a whole different language. And a couple of people have used the term like it's flooding their nervous system.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's exactly what is happening.
And it defeats the purpose.
I don't want that to happen because it's so important to have a regulated nervous system to actually have that creation come about. And so that's what's happening is a lot of healers are just getting stuck. And that's what hurts me too, is because they have these great, they're amazing at what they do. And they have these visions too, and they just can't get past the technology. And so that's one way that I am hoping to help is to provide assistance so I can basically take it off their plate, but also to show them that it can be easy. That's one thing that I'm even recognizing too, is technology is so innovative. And so almost every year there's a new thing that comes out. And so it's much easier to build things now, even if you don't have like the background. So that was one. And then the second was like the money wound. And that's one that I'm still working through too. But that's with these foundational systems that I'm hoping to build for clients. I want to also teach them that if you have these big visions for changing healthcare, that you kind of need the wealth background, you've got to have those income streams. And so that's what I'm also helping to teach, is that there are multiple ways that you can use the internet to build those income streams. So you can then, take your vision up and share it with more people. So that's what gets me really excited, is both of those things that, I can help with that. And that's why I called myself a digital healer too. I was like, well, that feels a little weird because I'm not like really a healer, but I am in some
You
aspects.
are healing. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're digital wounds, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
no, I love that. And I think too, it's like I started my business about 6 years ago when I took the leap out of healthcare and decided to start the Soul Cafe. And what I think my biggest fear was, that how am I going to provide, for myself? Because I was so used to having this steady paycheck coming in and benefits and, all of this stuff. And so that was a huge leap for me. And I will add one other caveat on there to the tech and the money. I will also add the marketing to that aspect too, because I think people as healers, we get afraid. I don't want to market myself. I don't want to seem selfish. I don't want to seem greedy. But, for me, it's really just standing in your authenticity and being genuine with it. Don't try, people get so overworked about sales and whatnot. But when you are actually standing in your own power and, genuinely sharing what you do, it is sales technically. But with that said, people can feel that energy, off of you, and they can feel that passion behind it. And so me having that communications, PR, marketing background, I was really put to the test, with that. So I can definitely, feel the energy around that. And these are some stumbling blocks that I'm recognizing, not only with my own journey, but with those who are stepping out onto their own path. And many people now are in jobs where they don't feel in alignment anymore. And they are seeing systems crumbling, and they are seeing systems that just, it's like round, peg, square hole, or square hole, round peg, or whatever, round peg, square hole. But yeah, they're like, this isn't working, but how do I take the leap? How do I jump out there? How do I support myself? How do I support my family and trust that what I'm doing is actually in my best interest? And I think that's a huge block or barrier for people. And I do work with a lot of clients on that, having that abundance block there or that confidence block of just having the self-worth. And so there's so many components, to this, to starting your own business and to stepping out, especially in an area that's very new for people. So many people in society have been programmed to think that conventional medicine is the end all be all, and that's the only way to heal. But I think we all kind of learned through our own personal journeys that there's more out there. And now we want to be able to share that, with other people. But how do we do that? How do we put ourselves out there? How do we connect? The internet, online is the way to do it now. I mean, I have clients from all over the world, and I would not be able to do that if I didn't have the access of being online. And like you said, there's kind of a negative stigma around artificial intelligence and technology and whatnot, but let's create a new energy, around that, and let's allow ourselves to be able to connect in a much more free-flowing way. And there's no limits. There's absolutely no limits to that. I mean, look how much the internet has grown, since it came out.
I would say too, with the one-on-one model, I feel like that's changing a little bit, because because of COVID, that gave us a chance to get online and understand how we can use it. And it floors me how many healing modalities you can actually do online. Like I just
totally, especially in energy.
I'm like, oh yeah, I can feel this. How is that working? And so I definitely think there are a lot of ways that you can use the internet that a lot of people don't really, there's more workshops, there's classes, but also with like one-on-one, I've heard a lot of healers are trying to move away from that. So there is that, I always question that too. It's like, yes, connection in person is always going to be the best. And I think there are ways to do that. But I think if we can do like a hybrid model of sorts, and so kind of what I've been teaching my clients is to try and move away from the one-on-one model, because that can be super overwhelming. And a lot of times you're kind of underpaid because you can't fit in more people into
Mhm.
a certain time block. And what I had been hearing from a lot of people too is that they seem to repeat themselves a lot in these sessions. And so
Yeah.
they're using those sessions as education and just overall process kind
Yeah.
of review, and they hardly have any time to actually heal the patient. And so the benefit of using online systems, specifically in like courses, I love the idea of taking like everything that's in your brain and moving it into a course, so you can start like introducing yourself through that way, so you kind of grow your audience that way. They get more educated on what it is you're talking about, what the processes are, and then you can funnel them into a one-on-one kind of situation. Or you could build a community. And so group healing is another really
Yeah.
interesting thing. So moving
Mhm.
people online, I was also part of an energy group healing thing, which is amazing, because I think that there is something to be said about community health, like actual community health of people coming together, talking about their symptoms, talking about their trauma.
Yeah.
I do feel like there's some really cool things that can happen that way, and technology can help with that. So I'm excited about where it's going. And yeah, I'm happy to be part of that foundational piece.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because I'm definitely resonating with that. I've been doing one-on-one sessions for a while now, and it does burn me out quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so I've been starting to think of, what are some new ways that I can reach more people and expend less energy,
Yeah.
on my end. And I am feeling that as well with a lot of my friends who are working in holistic medicine or health and in this natural healing modalities. They are feeling the same. It's like we're being guided to yes, we can work with people one-on-one, but that's not our our whole day, that we're doing that. And so what I
Yeah.
love about the idea of courses or workshops is you could be sleeping and people are signing up, all over the
Yeah.
world for those
Yeah.
programs. And so I do feel that that's an area that I am more leaning towards right now, because it is it's just really difficult for me to be able to maintain these one-on-one sessions when I want to branch out. I want to do my podcast, I want to do my YouTube, I want to write books, I want to do these things, and it's
Yep.
making it harder for me to do that when I'm having these one-on-ones. Now with that said, I love the connection. I love having that connection one-on-one with people. But, I know there's more for me out there. And I know there's other people who are watching this or listening
Mhm.
that are like, me too, me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I would say the connection piece is one I've been thinking about too. And I still think that you can have connection in those courses. You're still the one who is creating the content. You can also do hybrid things where maybe you pop in once a month or something and you're on Zoom. I also know people who then take it off into like a retreat center. So maybe you do a couple of courses, and the people who are really interested, you can then come together and meet in person. So I do feel like there's still some ways of doing that. And I would also say like automation is another thing that I've kind of been grappling with, because I know the benefits of it. And the fact that, um, you know, it can streamline a lot of things and it can make a lot of processes a lot quicker. But there's also that like weird, icky AI feeling to
Yes.
it.
Yes. And I think it's really just overcoming the stigma, of that, and, utilizing technology in a way that's positive and is efficient and is a
Yeah.
way that we can move forward, to help heal and to help create a better world, and I think just learning how to do that and collaborating with people like you, to be able to do that, I think is fantastic. So Katie, you have started to create a website called myfavoritehealer.com. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So going back to my story about the healing, and I was on the acupuncture table, that's actually when I got this idea. I kind of dropped in and I was like, oh, I guess I better do something about it. And that's where I really wanted to, I want people to and I realized that it was hard to do that. So all of my healers that I know, I have gotten through word of mouth. And then there's a lot of like that trial and error. I'll go to intro sessions and sometimes I'll hit it off, sometimes I won't. There's another path too. You can go down insurance networks, and now a whole bunch of healers just
Yeah.
aren't dealing with that. And so your options are really slim. And so I was like, oh, well, let's see if I can make a directory. And that's where I originally started. And for the last 2 years, I've been building, I've got a whole book journal full of notes. And I realized I had to do some healing too first to get this to like actually come out of me. So over the last couple of weeks, I've finally pushed it forward, and I have the first version of it, which is called My Favorite Healer. And I'm focusing more on positive reviews. So really, I love the idea of word of mouth and having your healers really vetted by your community. And so you can basically go on there, and if you have a favorite healer, you can go on there and submit your favorite reviews. So we're looking at any type of stories where the healer has made a positive impact on you or a transformational change. So we really want to know, like, deep down, why do you like this healer? And the idea then is for people to go on there and search for healers, and hopefully this will grow organically. And so you can kind of think of it as a positive review Yelp for healers.
I love that idea because, when you play that into the law of attraction, right, the more that positive energy that you put out there, the more that you will attract. And so I love that idea. I think that's wonderful because there's not a lot of sites out there right now that have that specifically for this niche that, that we're talking about. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and eventually I think I do want to build it out. I want to bring in a community and potentially a marketplace. As I was mentioning, like a lot of healers do have these online workshops and courses, but there's no real way to find them. So hopefully I can build that in at some point as well. But I'm excited to try it out. It's kind of an experiment.
It is. That's really exciting. So is there anything else that you'd like to share that you might be working on, or some ideas that you have coming down the pike that you want to share with anybody?
I did want to put out an offer. So for my digital healer business, the foundational systems, I do really quick little website reviews. So if anybody is interested, you can go to yourdigitalhealer.com/resources, and I'll do a little website review. So if you feel like maybe your website's not working, or it's not attracting the right people, I can usually find like 1 to 2 things that that you can actually change pretty easily on your end. So I would love to offer that to your audience as well.
That's a great idea. And also, Katie, too, I know you don't create websites, but there's a lot of people out there that don't have websites. So can they reach out to you? Do you have any suggestions of people that you can send them to help them? Because I know that's a stumbling block as well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I can help. There are definitely websites that I can build. There's like one-pager websites that are really simple. So if you just need to get something up there, which I recommend to anyone, just make sure you have an online presence. Definitely reach out. I am also building my network. So when you build a business, you realize you're going to need some help. And I do want to encourage everybody to start thinking about delegating things, because you can't do it all yourself.
Yes.
And so I have a big network of friends who are social media managers, who build websites, who do all of the things. So I'm happy to be that resource.
That's amazing. I love that. I call myself the quantum connector often because I just seem to connect people really well. And
Same.
I love that. I love that because, it's almost like when I started to think about doing a retreat, it was before COVID, and then COVID kind of shut it all down. But I'm probably going to start, thinking about that shortly. But I started to have all these healers come to me, and it was like all these speakers, and I'm like, if you build it, they will come, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, everybody was showing up, but I just didn't have the event, in place. And so it's kind of funny that we need to network, we need to create that. And sometimes there's people like you and I who people can come to, and we may not be able to help them specifically, but we may have someone in mind who can. So I love that. Yes. Yeah. So if there's any of you out there who are struggling with starting a website, reach out to Katie. If she can't help you, she's going to guide you in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here to support you. That's my main goal. I want you to be successful in what you're doing and to spread your message and get more clients and heal more people.
I love that. So,
Yeah.
Katie, how can people reach out to you? What are the best ways for people to connect with you?
Definitely my website, so yourdigitalhealer.com, and I'm also on Instagram, same handle, and yeah, reach out definitely through DMs or email.
Great. Well, thank you, Katie. I appreciate you coming on the show. I think this was a very informative and enlightening conversation, especially since we are moving into these new ways of thinking, new ways of growing, and we're kind of looking at old paradigms and old ways of doing things. They just aren't working and fitting, into our new, advanced ways of living. So, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it as well.